start the recording and begin the meeting. That has started. Okay, welcome everybody to the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board meeting. The recording has started and I can confirm that the live broadcast has started. Please note that the board meeting is being live streamed and will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Can members activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video, and can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking? Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. Can I confirm that all members have been able to access the papers for today's meeting in advance?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And obviously, if you wish to speak at any point, please raise your hand in using the Teams function. Or if anybody ends up dialing into the meeting, you can raise your hand by pressing *5. If any members lose connection or have any technical issues during the meeting, please alert the Deputy Clerk by a separate Teams instant message if possible, and support will be available from ICT officer, I think it's David Angel, today during the meeting if required. So can I now ask the Deputy Clerk to take the sederant, please?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Stuart Adams.
Present.
Ms. Dawn Black.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Present.
Mrs. Marion Ewanson.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Goodall.
Present.
Mr. Trevor Mason.
Present.
Mr. Richard Maynard.
Present.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol.
Present.
Thank you. And from Police Scotland, Sergeant Neil Grant.
Present.
Thank you. And Licence and Standard Officer, I've got apologies from Keith Simpson. He's in another meeting, but he may join us if he's able to later. Sarah Ward. Lisa Godini.
Present.
Kevin MacDonald.
Present.
Just go back to Sarah Ward. And regarding the other deputy clerks, I've got Lauren Cowie, Principal Solicitor, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
And I've got Lindsay Kimmett, Deputy
Present.
Clerk. Fiona Stewart, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
And I've got Sian Gullen, Trainee Solicitor.
Present.
And Jenny Mearns, Admin Officer, who's recording. And I've got Delcia Borland, Admin Officer, who's recording. And I've also got our new paralegal, Harriet Tevendale.
Present.
So thank you. I've got all I was expecting except for Sarah Ward. She may have lost connection. Hopefully she may join us later. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I did see Sarah on the list earlier, so she's maybe just dropped out of the meeting. Moving on to a declaration of members' interest. Members, please state if you have any interest to declare, and if you have, please clarify the item number, the nature of the declaration, and whether or not you will be leaving the meeting. I don't see any indications. Thank you. In that case, we can move on to item 3, the equalities resolution. Do you agree the resolution on equalities? Please open your microphones and state if you agree. If
Agreed.
not, please state now. That's agreed. Item 4, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This is for a correct record only. Can we agree it as a correct and accurate record? Please open your microphones if you agree.
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 5, applications for premises, provisional premises licence, non-contentious. First one is Leslie Castle, Leslie at Inch. Could the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the application for the board? Jill, is it you?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just before I start, I understand Sarah Ward, Licensing Standard Officer, is she present now?
Yes.
I am,
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you. This is an application for a new premises licence. The premises is a traditional baronial castle, currently run as a guest house with tourist accommodation, and the application is seeking both on and off sales. On sales from 1500 hours to midnight, Monday to Sunday inclusive, and core off sale hours are 10 AM to 10 PM, Monday to Sunday inclusive. There'll be a number of activities, including restaurant facilities and receptions, as detailed in the report. Comments from the Licensing Standard Officer were addressed, and local conditions were recommended, which have been agreed, and is recommended that the application is granted, subject to the local conditions as detailed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do members of the board wish to discuss the content or ask any questions? No. Not seeing any indications there. So in that case, in terms of the recommendation 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow for a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yes. So in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence should the application be granted or refused, I would suggest it's a grant.
Grant.
Yes.
Granted.
Yeah.
Grant.
Okay.
Grant.
Moving on to the second application. This is for Murdo Allen at 7 Station Road, Hatton, Peterhead. Jill, can you take us through?
Thank you. This is an application for a new premises licence for off sales only. The premises is comprised of a ground floor bakery and shop. The hours are to be 10 o'clock to 1500 hours Monday to Friday inclusive, and 10 o'clock to 1300 hours on a Saturday. No adverse comments were made in respect of this application, and local conditions were recommended by the Licensing Standard Officer, which have been agreed, and it's recommended that the application is granted, subject to the local conditions as detailed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do members have any comments or questions? No, not seeing any indication. So I take it, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow for a determination to be made?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
So in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence should the application be granted or refused?
Grant.
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 Okay, thank you.
Grant.
The application is granted. We can now move on to item 6, applications for major variations which are non-contentious. First one is the Butcher's Arms, 14 West High Street in Inverurie. Again, can the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the application for the board? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a major variation application, and it's looking to remove local condition 3 from the premises licence, which specified that all use of outdoor drinking areas is to cease at 2200 hours daily. It's also looking to add receptions within core hours as an activity, and relax the terms on which children and young persons would be admitted to the premises, namely that they will be allowed all ages, but must be accompanied by an adult at all times and present on the premises for the purposes of consumption of food or attending a function, talent show, or entertainment afternoon. Access will be permitted until 8 o'clock or until the termination of a specific function, and there will be no direct access permitted to the bar area. A representation was received from Police Scotland. An objection was received from the Licensing Standards Officer, and also an objection from Environmental Health. The Licensing Standard Officer noted the practical difficulties with the wording of the current condition and suggested rewording the condition. Environmental Health also had concerns if the condition was to be removed in its entirety and recommended conditions. The applicant agreed to accept 2 specific conditions which captured the concerns of all parties, and the consultees withdrew their objections on this basis. Local conditions were also recommended by the Licensing Standards Officer as stated in the report, and it's recommended that the application is granted subject to the 2 specific conditions and the local conditions as detailed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this application? No, I'd just like to commend the licensing standards officer on the work put in here, because when there are objections, there's often quite a lot of work in having these resolved to the agreement of both parties. So I'd like to thank her for that. So do the board feel that you have had sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made? Oh, I see a comment. Trevor, Councillor Mason.
Yeah, it was just when people go outside for a smoke after 10 o'clock, and they're still in the licensed area, they're liable to take their drinks with them. Just to make sure that they're aware of that they're not supposed to take their drinks outside after 10 o'clock. I don't know where we can stick that in, but yeah. So I don't. Yeah. Okay. just to note that, really.
Can I maybe ask the licensing standards officer to comment? That'll be Lisa Godini, I think.
It is indeed. Yes, the I would expect that it would be down to the management of the business to manage this. They do operate with door stewards on Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 o'clock, I think it is, and they have got signage up at the door that leads to their outdoor area, which states drinks would not be permitted outside after 10 p.m. and it would be up to the license holder to ensure that they've got processes in place to manage that. So, for example, the door stewards, if there's no door stewards, that staff are going around ensuring that there's the drinks aren't going outside.
That's good. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that's also it's stated in the condition, so it would be a breach of the condition if that wasn't enforced.
Okay, so it's an enforceable condition. In that case, having determined there's sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused, members?
Grant.
Granted.
Granted. Okay,
Granted.
thank you. That application is granted for the Butcher's Arms. We move on to the second one now. It's Mary Cooter House Hotel, Captain of Mary Cooter, South Deeside Road, Mary Cooter. Can the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the application for the board?
Thank you. Yes, the applicant applied for a change in the premises manager to Peter Walker, a change in core hours for both on sales and off sales as noted in the report. Additional activities to be added to the operating plan out with core hours, namely bar meals, live performances and outdoor drinking. Additional activities to be added to the operating plan within core hours, namely theatre and gaming. Further activities to be added to permit the addition of an external bar, marquee, temporary pavilion, a hunting lodge, performances and gaming. An update to the layout plan to increase outdoor drinking area to show extent of the hotel external area, add a hunting lodge and temporary structure, and update the description of the premises accordingly. A note from the report that an objection was received from the licensing standard officer and an additional condition was recommended by the police regarding children and young persons, which was agreed to. Objections were also received from environmental health and a neighbour regarding the potential for noise. The applicant amended the application so that the hours complied with licensing policy. The applicant also engaged in conversations with the LSO, environmental health and the neighbour regarding potential conditions which would alleviate concerns regarding noise from the marquee. And 7 further conditions were agreed between all parties, and all parties are content to withdraw their adverse comments and objections if the conditions can be imposed, which the applicant has agreed to all of these. There was also local conditions recommended by the licensing standard officer as noted in the report and agreed to. I would advise the board that local condition 32 was missing from the board report. This states the licence holder must take reasonable steps to ensure that litter and where used glass and bottles are removed from beer gardens and outside drinking areas on a regular basis. And I'd recommend that if the application is granted, subject to the 8 specific conditions and also the local conditions as detailed in the report, including local condition 32. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, there's quite a lot to this application. Have we any questions? Or comments? No. In that case, can I just check that members have had sufficient evidence on which to make a determination?
Yes.
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 So on that basis, does the board wish to grant this application, grant or refuse? And remember to include the addition of local condition 32.
Grant.
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 Grant with the condition.
Okay, thank you. So that application. Thank you. That application for Mary Cooter House Hotel is also granted. If we move on to number 3, the Grange Inn, West Road, Peterhead. Again, I'll ask the Deputy Clerk to outline the terms of the application. Jill, please.
Thank you. The application is seeking to change the premises name from the Grange into the Grange, increase the core hours as noted in the report, increase seasonal festive hours, include off sales from 10 AM to 10 PM, and increase access to children and young persons for private functions until the terminal hour, and children and young persons no longer be permitted in the bar area. Also increase access to include 0 to 5-year-olds, and increase other activities including karaoke, prize bingo, quizzes and poker, external catering for funeral teas, events and private functions. Police Scotland and the LSO both made similar representations that children and young persons should be accompanied by a responsible adult whilst in the premises, and the applicant submitted revised documents to accommodate the representations made. And they revised the operating plan, layout plan and risk assessment. The applicant agreed to all the local conditions which were recommended, and it's recommended that the application is granted subject to the local conditions as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Do members have any questions or comments? No. In that case, can I just check that you've had sufficient information and evidence on which to base a determination?
Yes.
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 So in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Grant.
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 Okay. Thank you. The application for the Grange Inn, now the Grange West Road, Peterhead, has also been granted. Thank you. Moving on to number 4 is the Spar, 7 Prince Street, Peterhead. Jill, can you take us through this one as well, please?
Thank you. Yes, so the applicant wants to change the layout, which results in an increase of off-sales capacity from 18.92 metres squared to 19.37 metres squared, remove seasonal variations, addition of activities of gaming to cover the use of the National Lottery outlet, addition of National Lottery outlet, click and collect and home deliveries. The LSO recommended local conditions, which the applicant has agreed to, and also to 5 conditions specific to the application, which relate to the home deliveries, and they've all been agreed to as well. It's therefore recommended that the application is granted subject to the local conditions and the specific conditions as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this one? No. Again, have you received sufficient information on which to base your decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So in terms of the recommendation at 1.2b, having determined there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Grant.
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 Okay, granted. Thank you. So that's the application for the Spar, 7 Prince Street, Peterhead. Major variation is also granted. Moving on to the next one, number 5, is the Deeside Gliding Club at Aboyne Airfield, Dinnet. This one's slightly more complicated. Maybe there is a mistake in the timings. listed in the report, the existing licensed hours terminal hour is actually 2,300 hours, and the proposed licensed hours terminal hour is also 2,300 hours. So the first change there, bullet point 1, closing time remains unchanged. That should read also 2,300 hours. But I'll hand over to Jill to take us through the report.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for advising of the typo in the report. Apologise for that, and as Mrs. Eunice has advised, the closing time is to remain unchanged at 2,300 hours. The applicant also wants to change the opening time to 16:30 hours each day. Currently it's at 18:30 hours. They want to add outside drinking during core hours and amend the layout plan to include the outside drinking area where alcohol is sold at the bar and where it may be consumed outside. The outside drinking area is located within the surrounding garden area of the clubhouse. The garden area is enclosed by a fence and is made up of a barbecue area, decking area, as well as grassed areas with seating and tables located throughout. Children and young persons may have access to the outside drinking area only if accompanied by an adult. They also sought clarification that both accommodation and restaurant facilities may be provided at all times, both during and out with core hours. The licensing standard officer made a representation that the layout plan submitted did not comply with the legal requirements and recommended local conditions. The applicant has agreed to the local conditions and agreed to lodge amended layout plans. We're still waiting on these at the moment, and therefore it's recommended that if the board grants the application, that it's granted in principle, subject to receipt of the amended layout plan and also subject to the local conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No. In that case, do members feel they've received sufficient information on which to make their determination?
Yes.
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 So
Yes.
in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused? And it is a grant in principle.
Yeah, grant in principle, yeah.
Grant in principle.
And in
Yes.
principle.
Okay, thank you. Right, that concludes the major variation applications. We now move on to item 7, which is a hearing. I don't think the applicant is actually attending today, so am I right?
That's correct. The
That's
applicant
correct.
has advised they won't be attending today.
Okay. So this is an application from James White, care of the Inverurie Bowling Club, for an occasional licence. The applicant isn't present. And can you confirm that you've received the relevant information and feel able to participate in the termination of this application? No, sorry, that would be if the applicant were here. Apologies. Can we just check whether other parties are present? So, Licensing Standards Officer.
Good morning. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Sergeant Neil Grant of Police Scotland.
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Okay. And have you received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of this application?
Yes.
Sergeant
Yes.
Grant? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking if your microphone permits this. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers or you may be removed from the meeting. And once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. And once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. I don't think that applies in terms of Police Scotland and the Licensing Standards Officer. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. At that point, once the board comes back, the recording will be restarted. No decisions would be taken at that time until the meeting resumes. So the applicant isn't here to speak to the application. So in that case, it'll be up to those making objections or representations. So I would start with the Licensing Standards Officer, Lisa Godini, please.
Chair, perhaps in the absence of the license, the applicant, I could just sort of confirm the procedure and just speak about the application.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So it's just to advise members, it's an application for an occasional license, and it's before the board because a report was received from the licensing standard officer, and the board convener, in consultation with the deputy clerk, has deferred consideration of the application to a hearing of the board in terms of the board's scheme of delegation. The application was received from Inverurie Bowling Club to hold an event from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the 5th of February 2023. And members will note from the report, there's a report from the Licensing Standards Officer drawing the board's attention to paragraph 418 of the board's policy statement. And as the convener said, the applicant has advised it won't be in attendance today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, Jill, that should have brought you in. Lisa Godini, Licensing Standards Officer, would you like to speak to your objection, please?
Yes, thank you. As Jill has just highlighted, Inverurie Bowling Club have applied for an occasional licence for a birthday party between 1 and 10. The premises already holds a premises licence, but it is a members club, so therefore they are limited to members and their guests only. They do have the ability to sign in up to 5 guests per member. However, as you'll be aware, the members club has the ability to apply for a limited amount of occasional licenses in a given year in order to open up their premises to non-members. So this application has come in for a birthday party. As I said, I was unsure what kind of birthday party it was, and spoke to the applicant, and who confirmed it was a 5th birthday party. As you can see from the application, they have highlighted that there will be children's games in attendance, and children and young persons permitted entry to the premises until 8 p.m. With this in mind, I would like to revert back to your licensing board policy statement 4.18 under supplementary policy 4, where there would be a presumption against granting occasional licenses for events that are aimed primarily at children or young persons, such as but not limited to school sports days or children's parties. With the information in the application, I believe that this event falls under that policy statement, and therefore believe it should be up to yourselves to consider whether or not the application should be granted or not.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And can I ask Sergeant Grant, can you speak to your objection, please?
Just to say that we didn't put in an objection initially. I can explain the reasons for that. The way we process these applications is we have administrators, and they do fit and proper checks, and they'll assess the application before it goes to a constable. There've been various other applications from Inverurie Bowling Club similar to this in the past, and there've been no issues. So the administrator, as part of our protocol, returned it to the council as a no police objection. We weren't aware that it was a 5th birthday party. Had that been the case, it would have been passed to a police officer to do further inquiry. But in relation to our objection, I fully support what Lisa has already mentioned and would back that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do members have any questions for either Lisa or Sergeant Grant? No. Oh, Trevor, Mr. Mason. You're muted.
It's the idea of 9 hours drinking for a fifth birthday party. It seems a bit excessive to me. Could we not reduce those hours a bit? It just seems a bit long to me. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but yeah, that's my point anyway.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Claire, perhaps if I could come in
Yes, Jill.
on that, thanks. It was just advised that in relation to the event was from 1 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night. Children and young persons were to be allowed from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I'm not sure if it would be sort of competent to, to reduce the application. I think we've got to deal with what we've got in front of us, and the applicant's obviously not here either to advise whether they would agree to, to shorten hours. So I think we probably have to just deal with what's in front of us.
My idea is it's one of the 5 licensing objectives, protecting children and young persons from harm. I just thought maybe included in that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Crowson?
Sorry, Chair, have we moved on to the debating part now? Because I thought that was
It's
questions.
questions.
So we're still on questions.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll come back to you then. Mr. Menard, Richard, is that a question?
Yeah, just jog my memory, please. What's the criteria for unaccompanied children in a bar and this sort of circumstances? Because to my mind, we've got to protect the kids. So if it's a 5-year-old party and thing, are there going to be any unaccompanied kids? It's just a question. Has that been raised?
That's maybe one for Lisa. Do you know?
Sorry, just having a quick look through the application. I don't think there's anything detailed in the application that says as such, other than under measures, under how will children and young persons be protected from harm at the event, and it says well supervised. Certainly, I would expect an event of this nature that if the event was to go ahead, that children under the age of 15 at least should be supervised at this event.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
I can turn mine into a question more or less because it's just
Okay.
checking facts. So the children of 5-year-old that they're having the general age of a party for are going to have to be out by 8, according to the children's license. But they've applied a license for 10, so it's not going to be a birthday party between 8 and 10 without kids there, is it?
Okay, thank you. Do you want to try and answer that one? Lisa?
I can try. Again, I had picked up on the exactly same point, that it looks like children are permitted till 8 o'clock and potentially the event still continuing in their absence, is certainly how the application comes across.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodall?
Thank you, Chair. Given the numbers of children, should there be a particular number of adults supervising them? Normally, I would take it in a bar. Children unaccompanied are not allowed to stay in a bar or a club, but usually with their parents, which is say 2 parents to 2 children. Are we in a situation where that's the case, or is it going to be 4 adults and 20 children or 30 children?
Okay,
I think,
thank
Chair,
you.
sorry, I can come in. I think every application's just, it's usually just determined on its own merits. It just depends on the circumstances of the event, and in relation to other premises, every license is different. Everyone's looked at sort of individually regarding the sort of the children's access and whether supervision's required. I don't know if Lisa wants to add further.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
I would agree. Nothing further to add. You know, each premises, we don't have conditions specific to the amount of adults per children ratio. Each premises is different. With this kind of event, because it's a fifth birthday party, one would assume that each child comes with at least one parent. But again, that's just an assumption.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else want to come in on that? I think, Jill, have you got a comment there?
Yeah, it was just to say, also to advise that this would be a private birthday party. So it would be up to the individuals to sort of supervise their children.
Okay, Mr. Crowson.
To try and get this clear in my head, so I know it's against our policy to encourage giving a license to like a kid's birthday party. That seems obvious. If they had applied for this same license, say for an adult disco or an adult party, and then applied for the part to let kids attend it, would that have been the same thing but treated totally different?
I would say yes, but
You know what I mean?
yeah,
No.
yeah. Jill or Lisa? I would say that would be a different application because the main activity wouldn't be children's games.
And it would have been treated differently in our heads, although they could have ended up doing the exact same thing as they want to do.
If I could come in there, each application, as you say, is assessed on its own merit. Yes, you are right in that an applicant could change the information on an application in order to make it look like a different event. I can only go by what's in front of me at the application or speaking to the application to the applicant, sorry. But we would look primarily at what the main activities are, and you know, in an event like this, the majority of the guests will be children of a very young age, and that's where kind of our assessment comes in to determine whether or not it's appropriate for this application to be processed or not. As I say, it's in the board's policy that an event of this nature shouldn't be granted an occasional license. The premises already has a premises license, as I stated, where an event could be run. However, when you drill down into their children, young persons access availability, this event wouldn't be able to take place, if I remember correctly, because the only under 18s permitted in the clubhouse under their premises license conditions is junior members, and again you would have to start questioning the attendees of this event.
I think, Jeff, we need to concentrate on the application we actually do have in front of us today.
Yeah, but that was
presented.
to help my thinking for this one.
What you're suggesting, I think, would be a totally different application. It would be an event organised for adults that children would be in attendance at, rather than an event organised for children.
But the point of my question was to help me with my thinking for this one that's in front of us, so it wasn't a...
Okay. I don't see any further questions, so I'll just ask you both to sum up. I'll start with Sergeant Grant.
No, nothing further to add other than fully support what the LSOs have already told you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And LSO, Lisa Cadini, please.
Thank you. Yes, just to again to highlight that I believe an event of this nature is inconsistent with the licensing policy. The reason for highlighting it is, we're trying to protect children and young persons from harm, and we don't want to see alcohol consumption being part of a child's day-to-day life, thinking that it's normal to have a 5th birthday party and that alcohol will be consumed at such an event. Nothing further to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Do members require any legal advice from the clerk today? No.
Chair, I'm happy to run through the legal test if that would
Okay,
assist
thank you.
members.
Yeah.
So as members will note from Appendix 4, the board must consider whether any of the grounds for refusal applies, and if none of them applies, the board must grant the application, and if any of them applies, the board must refuse the application. So the grounds for refusal are that the premises to which the application relates to are excluded premises. That wouldn't be relevant today. That the applicant must be refused under section 56(6)(a). That is in relation to if the number of occasional license, the limit's been exceeded, so that wouldn't be relevant. Section 64(2), which is a 24-hour opening, which isn't relevant, or 65(3), which isn't relevant either because it's the 10 AM to 10 PM. What would be, or what could be relevant, is that the board considers the granting of the application would be inconsistent with one or more of the licensing objectives. And the last ground of refusal would be that the nature of the activities, the location, character, condition of the premises, or the persons likely to frequent the premises are unsuitable for the sale of alcohol. That probably wouldn't be relevant either because the event is to take place in a licensed premises. So I would draw the board's attention to C, which is the relevant ground for refusal, would be that granting the application would be inconsistent with one or more of the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We can now debate the information. No more questions. Any comments? Mr. Adams, please.
Yeah, I'm of the view that the party could be held in the premises without a licence for sale of alcohol being granted, and that would be more befitting a party for a 5-year-old. I wouldn't cancel the party if there was no alcohol. I just have concerns and along the lines of protecting young persons from the influence of harm, and I'd be supportive of the party going ahead, but without alcohol part of it. Thank you.
Okay, so that really wouldn't be a decision for us. Our decision is just whether or not to grant the occasional licence. Mr. Mason.
I've never seen a 5th birthday party where there's a special licence introduced. Maybe I'm cut off from that sort of world, but I don't know. I just yeah, I'm not happy about the idea of basing a 5th children's birthday party around alcohol. I think it might attract more adults than children. I think because of that, I don't know. That's my point anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goodall.
It's my opinion that this is quite a messy application. It's badly presented to us, but I think the police officer and Lisa have a very valid point in that our policy objectives have been broken by, if we did accept this application, we'd be going against our own policy objectives. If I would say we should not grant this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crowson.
I think just looking at the fact that children's not going to be allowed in as long as they're trying to apply for the licence for anyway, sort of lays weight to the fact that they're maybe using a policy of the children's birthday party to get the licence, and that's against our policy anyway, so I'd be minded to refuse it.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more indications. Do members feel they've had sufficient information on which to base a determination?
Yes.
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 Yes, yes.
In that case, does anyone wish to make a motion?
Yeah, I think,
Sorry,
Sorry.
Trevor, Mr. Menard.
yes, sorry, I didn't press the button.
Yes, I move that we refuse this application on the grounds that it does not meet with our licensing policies. And one or more of our licensing policies.
Okay, which one are you referring to?
Chair, perhaps if I can help,
Uh,
would it be
Yes,
paragraph
please.
418 of the
4.18,
board's
yeah.
policy statement, which states
Yeah.
that there's a presumption against granting an occasional license for a children's party.
Yeah.
And also just to remind members as well that the grounds for refusal is, in addition to being, I guess, inconsistent with the policy, that it's also inconsistent with one or more of the licensing objectives.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Goodall.
I would simply second Mr.
That's-
Maynard's proposal.
Okay, thank you. Is there an alternative view?
Chair,
No.
can I just perhaps confirm clarification of the motion?
Yes.
So it was to, on the grounds that refuse the application on the grounds that it's contrary to paragraph 418 of the board's policy statement, and also granting the application will be inconsistent with the licensing objectives. Just to confirm, is that protecting children and young persons from harm?
Agreed.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there's no alternative proposal there. So in that case, can we just confirm that that decision is unanimous, that we would be refusing the application on the grounds that it's inconsistent with the licensing objective on, is it seconded by Councillor Mr. Goodall seconded the motion, inconsistent with the licensing objective on protecting young children and young persons from harm, and also goes against our own policy 4.18 on the presumption against events where there's alcohol and young children, an event targeted at young children such as sports days and parties, that one, 4.18.
Agreed.
Okay, is that
Agreed.
unanimous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Agreed.
that application has been refused. Thank you. Can you just confirm the decision, Jill, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, confirm that the application was refused on the grounds that granting the application would be contrary to paragraph 418 of the board's policy statement, and therefore granting the application would be inconsistent with the licensing objective of protecting children and young persons from harm, and just on the statutory basis of that section 59(6)(c) of the Licensing Scotland Act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everybody happy just to go ahead with the next item? Okay, it's item 8. Again, it's a hearing. This time it's a personal license in relation to a conviction of which we've been notified. I don't think the applicant is attending. Can I just confirm that, Jill?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the applicant, or the licence holder, won't be attending today. The board's complied with the legal duty we've written to her, and the mail was returned to us as address has gone away. We've also tried to make contact by email and telephone, and we've had no contact. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I just check that the board are okay to proceed with the applicant not being present? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just ask that the Deputy Clerk confirms the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you. Yes, the matter is before the board today to consider a notice lodged by the Chief Constable under section 83(4)B of the Licensing Scotland Act, in which the conviction of personal licence holder Gail Cleaver of a relevant offence was confirmed, and decide what action to take, if any, in terms of section 83(8) of the 2005 Act. The board will note that the conviction stated at Appendix 1 of the report, and the convener, in consultation with the Deputy Clerk, agreed to hold the hearing today in terms of paragraph 2.2 of the board's scheme of delegation. It should be noted that there was no recommendation made from Police Scotland. Therefore, if no hearing had been held, the board could have decided to take no further action in relation to the conviction. And we've also, Police Scotland will be able to speak to their notice today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I just confirm that the Police Scotland representative, Sergeant Neil Grant, is present?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, I am.
Members? Yeah. And the applicant isn't present. So we can go on to Sergeant Neil Grant, if you can speak to your request to review the licence, please.
Thank you. I'm addressing the board today in order to notify of a conviction against the personal licence holder Gail Catherine Cleaver, born 8th of November 1971, Glass Huntley. And I've to advise you that Gail Cleaver has been convicted of the following offence: that on the 2nd of December 2021 at Elgin Sheriff Court, she was convicted of drink driving, section 51A of the Road Traffic Act 1988. She was disqualified for 12 months and received a fine of £600 with a victim surcharge of £40. The circumstances of the conviction are as follows. That on Sunday the 7th of November 2021, Police Scotland received a call from the licence holder stating that she'd crashed her car on the unclassified road near Aberlour. She was uninjured, but the car was stuck. Officers attended and could smell alcohol on her breath. She was in possession of the car keys and she admitted driving under the influence of alcohol. She subsequently provided a positive breath test and was arrested, and further provided a second specimen of breath with a lower reading of 90 micrograms of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath, which exceeded the prescribed limit of 22 micrograms of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath. We contacted the licence holder and asked her to update the council with regards to her conviction. She said she'd sent an email, but she'd never received a response. And we did wait a while to see if she would do it again, but she hadn't, hence why we've notified you today of this conviction. We haven't made any recommendations because it wasn't a licensable activity that she's committed the offence on, and it was merely for your information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members got any questions? No. In that case, any concluding remarks, Sergeant Grant?
No, as I say, it was merely just notify you of this conviction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do board members require any legal advice at this point? No. Do we need to retire to deliberate? Mr. Goodall?
I just to clarify, well, I suppose it should be done privately to consider this. I'll leave it there, and if we're going to deliberate, then I'll bring my questions up there.
Okay, Mr. Menard? You're muted.
Ah, come on.
Got you. No, you've put it off again.
Apologies. Now, is the applicant obliged to notify us of any criminal convictions? That's statutory, it is? Yeah, okay. And she's not done that, I take it?
No, we've not. We weren't advised. I did check, and we haven't been advised of it. There's been no record that she's advised us of the conviction.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Can I just go back to Mr. Goodall? Were you asking that we did retire to deliberate?
I just assumed that we would, but I may be wrong. But I'm not suggesting it at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black?
Hi, yes, I would request that we can retire privately to deliberate this one, please.
Okay. Members agree? Yes. In
Agreed.
that case, you should have an invitation to an adjournment room.
Bear with me, I don't seem to have access to the breakout room. Technical difficulty, so saying to try again in a few minutes. Perhaps you want to take a short adjournment, Chair, to allow me to do it.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. No,
Oh,
I've got it. Should be opening now. I won't be able to attend because I'll be in the main meeting, but Jill will be with you.
Okay, thank you.